Deborra-Lee Furness has taken a swipe at her ex-husband Hugh Jackman after confirming she's filing for divorce, speaking for the first time about what she's described as a journey of betrayal.
Hollywood adored them for a long time. A darker story was developing, though, behind all the glamorous red carpets and glowing interviews. Now that Deborra-Lee Furness has broken her silence after over 30 years of marriage, everyone is startled by what she disclosed. The truth is coming out about a hidden Broadway romance and a penthouse move-out worth $60 million. Hugh Jackman genuinely walked away. For what reason? How much longer did this go behind closed doors? Join us. Hugh Jackman and Deborra-Lee Furness's breakup, announced in a headline that stunned the world, came after nearly 30 years of marriage. Out of nowhere, the guy referred to be Hollywood's most devoted husband, and the lady who had supported him during his meteoric rise to stardom and several box office successes, were no longer together. And initially, there was no fanfare, controversy, or drama around the news. All was silent, finished with polish. Calm down. A few days later, though, the mask fell off, and the subsequent events transformed an intimate breakup into a shocking act of public betrayal. Deborra-Lee Furness broke her silence. For what reason? Can you tell me what Hugh did? When did the rest of us start turning a blind eye? In late 2023, the couple made a formal announcement and shared it with the press. By using the phrases loving marriage and growing apart, they made it apparent that they both wanted this to end. Many were saddened by the apparent breakup of the most authentic marriage in Hollywood. There had been no scandals or drama involving them for decades. Instead, there had been calm devotion. I thought so, at least at first. Furness spoke out in an interview with the Daily Mail, describing their breakup as a traumatic journey of betrayal, and going on to say, "It's a profound wound that cuts deep." Her statements totally changed the storyline. Suddenly, it became clear that someone had crossed a boundary, and the story was no longer about two individuals drifting apart. People were aware of precisely who they thought was guilty. There was an instantaneous media frenzy. The once dismissed rumors of infidelity suddenly became rampant again. What was Hugh Jackman trying to conceal? Had there been years of this happening behind closed doors? On social media, theories were flying. Past interviews have made a comeback on blogs. In search of any indications of conflict, fan pages retrieved red carpet footage. As more and more people peered, the innocence of the past started to fade. Jackman remained mute as well. He made no effort to counter her accusations, defend himself, or steer the conversation in his favor. The decision further increased mistrust. The journalists were free to conjecture since he refused to interact with them. Furness received an outpouring of support from the general population. She had been there first, well before the X-Men, the blockbusters, and the red carpets. She stood with Jackman through almost 20 years of Hollywood mayhem, helped him build his career, and adopted children with him. What followed the words traumatic journey of betrayal made them all the more impactful. Jackman was seen on camera shaking hands with his co-star in January 2025. Rumor has it that they are now madly in love and have even moved in together in the apartment he had with Furness in Manhattan. An additional aggravating factor was that the woman had subtly sought a divorce from her own spouse a few months prior. A lot of people thought it was just a coincidence because the timetable was so close. Word on Broadway has been circulating about their relationship for months. Then, all of a sudden, everything started to fall into place. It was more than a breakup. A public persona was gradually deteriorating. Furness ensured that the dissolution of a seemingly ideal Hollywood marriage would be remembered by everyone with a single terrible statement. One name keeps popping up, and the ramifications are mind-boggling. a surprising turn of events that is just now starting to upset the public's grasp of this divorce. It was more than simply a stroll in the park when Hugh Jackman was last seen in public in January 2025. He came clean about his relationship with a lady he had previously performed with and, according to reports, had a far deeper relationship with. It had been going on for a while. He had shared the stage with this artist for many years, someone about whom Broadway insiders had been speculating for some time before news outlets began to cover the story. Their past is currently being investigated, and the resulting chronology is no longer puzzling. This woman, who is she, precisely? How long has this connection actually been going on for? She wasn't pulled out of nowhere or a tabloid sensation. She is a legendary figure on Broadway in her own right, having co-starred with Hugh Jackman in a recent smash hit production of The Music Man. She is also a critically renowned performer and a two-time Tony Award winner. Throughout the show's run from 2019 into early 2023, fans raved about the electrifying connection between the two performers. The ease, comfort, and closeness shown in rehearsal footage, behind-the-scenes interviews, and fan-shot films from shows are increasingly harder to overlook. The breakup between Jackman and Deborra-Lee Furness was revealed in late 2023 with the intention of portraying it as a mutual and respectful choice. The chronology began to fall apart, however, when a few months later, in Santa Monica, he was spotted strolling hand-in-hand with the actress from his Broadway production. January 2025 wasn't an isolated incident. Among the middle of 2024, long before either Jackman or his new spouse formally divorced, the relationship had been an open secret among Broadway circles, according to insiders close to the production. Those of us backstage could see it coming a mile away, according to one anonymous former crew member. They always seemed so close. They'd sneak out after rehearsals and stay around in between scenes. We attributed it to simple, deep performance chemistry back then. Right now, somehow, it's different. And that's when the inquiries start. Was there a point when Jackman went too far when married to Furness, either emotionally or physically? Had this new romance begun to take shape even before The Music Man had begun? Pandemic pauses, cast changes, and several press conflicts were all part of the show's lengthy run, which occurred during some of the most turbulent years in Broadway history. The one constant, though, was the unwavering support and public acclaim that Jackman and his co-star never wavered from. On other fan sites, some went so far as to say that the chemistry between them on stage was too real. Looking back, it seems more like foreboding. Things get very awkward on the timeline. Jackman and Furness made their breakup public in the latter half of 2023. But until she divorced her husband, playwright Ted Griffin, in October 2024, his Broadway co-star stayed wedded. They were not publicly seen as a relationship for months prior to this, although it was months after Jackman's personal breakup. It seems that a new connection may have been taking shape behind the scenes as two marriages were subtly dissolving. Just one more thing to add to the speculation: found footage of interviews and rehearsals for The Music Man. Some fans have started going through interviews and behind-the-scenes videos in search of what seem like prophetic events. Taps on the back casually. A joke that only certain people know about. A prolonged, lingering look when performing a duet. It now seems like there was a bigger pattern at work here. These events weren't just happening at random. When it comes to those on the inside of the industry, how do they feel? Insiders who perceived the couple's chemistry as a natural connection between two talented performers allegedly allowed and even encouraged the relationship. Others, however, assert that tensions were rising behind the scenes, particularly in the months leading up to the show's finale, when rumors started circulating that personal boundaries were being eroded. Many others took note as well. There were moments when it felt like we were promoting a love story that wasn't entirely fictional, remarked one ex-marketing assistant for the project. Their conduct away from the stage wasn't only public relations. Because of this, there is now more discussion on the internet regarding emotional affairs in committed couples. Emotional infidelity is a hot topic among viewers and analysts. This type of cheating doesn't include physical contact, but rather when one spouse develops feelings for another that eclipse or even replace those they have at home. Professional intimacy may quickly cross over into personal proximity in high-pressure settings like live theater, adding another layer of complexity to the situation. However, here the consequences are known to the public and have significant ramifications. And lastly, what's missing? Sutton Foster's divorce was finalized in October 2024. At the time, the filing didn't cause much of a stir in the entertainment industry. In light of what is known today, though, it seems more like a prologue, a preliminary section of a tale that was developing in the background. Jackman's divorce. The dissolution of her marriage. We held hands in January. Soft murmurs from a common dwelling. Every scene adds up to a storyline that has grown more intricate and tragic than viewers could have ever anticipated. According to those closest to the issue, this new affair was actually rather old, even though the public just gained wind of it in early 2025. As the timelines are examined in greater detail, the boundaries between one's personal and professional lives begin to blur. The bewilderment is palpable for those who are still attempting to make sense of the guy he seems to be producing these days. This was more than just a musical on Broadway. The end may have begun at that moment. It is common for the media to focus on the emotional toll when a marriage dissolves after over 30 years. Another equally surprising aspect of the affair involving Hugh Jackman and Deborra-Lee Furness concerns the money. This wasn't an isolated emotional tragedy. A financial earthquake had occurred. Theirs was one of the most high-profile celebrity splits of recent times, with a combined wealth of $250 million. When a carefully constructed enterprise, which was founded on trust, shared investments, and over 30 years of living together, crumbles in front of the public eye. What then? There was an unwavering sense of partnership between Jackman and Furness for a long time. He was the famous actor, and she was the behind-the-scenes creative force and director. Thus, they worked together seamlessly throughout their careers. For them, it was a shared experience of two adopted children, a plethora of memories spanning decades, and houses on different continents, considered to be among their most prominent assets. At the height of his stardom, Jackman bought a beautiful condominium in Manhattan. Everything they had worked so hard to build would shortly be divided along those lines, and that property would represent it all. With its prime location in a posh Manhattan neighborhood, the penthouse is more than simply a dwelling. A statement it is. Those penthouses are available to a select few only. They provide breathtaking views of the cityscape, a personal lift, exquisite furnishings, and a degree of security that few can afford. It had been their refuge for many years, but it was one of the first things others noticed when they filed for a divorce. According to court documents, Deborra-Lee Furness paid $11.7 million to purchase the apartment from Jackman. No, it is not an error. $111,000. Not long after that, the estate was unsuspectingly advertised for sale at an unbelievable $60 million. The price tag shocked real estate agents, but what shocked them even more was the symbolism it represented. The complete financial split of one of the most famous couples in Hollywood. In legal words, the divorce was deemed uncontested, which implies that the spouses privately agreed to the terms without resorting to litigation. However, Uncontested does not imply simple. Behind closed doors, the true struggles, financial and emotional, took place. Considering the magnitude of the assets at stake, such discussions certainly weren't light. Insiders are claiming that Furness obtained a handsome spousal support payment and walked away with complete control of the penthouse, suggesting that she bargained from a position of quiet strength. The most noticeable difference is the tone of the financial divide compared to the couple's previous public persona. The image of Jackman as the humble family man who enjoyed yoga with his wife and Sunday breakfasts has persisted for a long time. However, that reputation is currently under attack due to scandals such as treachery, penthouse buyouts, and secret relationships. A highly publicized and costly divorce has engulfed the man who was once a beacon of stability and devotion. Can we disentangle a man's public image from his actual financial decisions? Jackman, on the other hand, has been spotted in New York cafes, appearing lively and carefree, grinning for photographers, attending meetings, and exuding his signature air of cool confidence. However, the financial impact is undeniable under the surface. This divorce will have a substantial financial impact because, to the penthouse, possible transfers of liquid assets and spousal maintenance. The effects of reorganizing assets and suffering property losses amounting to tens of millions of dollars will be noticeable even for someone as well off as Jackman. Here's how it works. If Furness paid roughly $12 million for Jackman's part, and the property is now offered for $60 million, it means they probably bought it jointly for much less, perhaps in the early 2010s. One of their most lucrative joint assets, the property's value skyrocketed because to New York's expanding luxury market. Now that she has it under her control and is prepared to sell it, it shows that she is making a bold move forward, maybe even metaphorically opening the door to a new chapter. The topic of spousal maintenance has also received much coverage, but it has not been officially established in documents because the divorce was uncontested. Spousal support in high-profile divorces after lengthy marriages is often determined by taking into account the wage gap, the preservation of the marital lifestyle, and the contributions made by each spouse. Furness had her own job, but for most of their time together, Jackman was the main breadwinner. According to those in the know, the pair planned to give her a hefty sum over time so that she could keep her wealth out of the public eye and avoid lengthy court appearances. However, things take a turn at this point. Fans and critics alike are taking a second look at Jackman's decision-making chronology as his romance with his ex-co-star gathers steam. Reportedly, he and his new partner now reside in the apartment he formerly shared with Furness. For many, that fact alone deepens the feeling of betrayal they have against Furness. Simply put, falling in love is one thing. It's one thing to end a marriage and then start a new life in the same high-end flat that represented your previous marriage. Unfortunately, the complete financial picture is still somewhat hidden, as is the case with every celebrity divorce. Who got what percentage of the $250 million is anybody's guess. The tax returns and contracts will remain hidden from us. Despite Jackman's public demeanor, the financial toll of his empire's downfall is substantial and will endure for years to come, according to the evidence we have: public sightings, insider disclosures, sales of luxury homes, and changing public narratives. Hugh Jackman remained unbeatable throughout the whole of his acting career. His authenticity, charisma, and commitment to a healthy lifestyle made him more than simply a celebrity. He was a brand, a performer from Broadway, a faithful spouse, someone who is dedicated to his family. That carefully crafted image, however, is becoming the subject of intensive public examination. The ramifications of his public persona being eroded by the aftermath of his divorce from Deborra-Lee Furness, and the rumors around his connection with a younger co-star are already apparent. His most recent professional endeavor, a concert tour called From New York with Love, which aims to honor his theatrical beginnings and re-establish connections with audiences, is where this influence is most noticeable. A subtle public relations disaster has instead ensued. Attendance has been far lower than anticipated. A few tickets are going for $20, a significant reduction from the original price range of $80 to $100. A few of locations still have unsold portions. This decline is difficult to overlook for a talent whose shows used to fill enormous venues. You can tell by the time. Following Jackman's public appearances with the lady whom many now believe was complicit in the dissolution of his marriage, the tour started to garner notice. The manner in which the separation occurred elicited reactions from fans as much as the break itself. An internet story is taking shape, but it has nothing to do with the couple's estrangement. It follows a guy as he pretends to abandon his 27-year marriage to a younger lady he had a long-term Broadway partner with. Skepticism was heightened by the fact that his new girlfriend had filed for a divorce from her own marriage a few months before to their public appearance. It has been a rough go on social media. Many have taken to social media, interviews, and tour coverage to accuse Jackman of being dishonest and hypocritical. "He's just another Hollywood cliché," said one tweeter. Some people compare her to actors Ben Affleck and Ethan Hawke, who also took heat for having extramarital affairs that appeared to overlap with their previous marriages. The key distinction is that Jackman was always considered an exception. Here he is, woven into the design. The silence of Jackman is adding petrol to the fire. No public declarations, clarifications, or denials have been made by him since the rumors started circulating. Because of this evasion of responsibility, the media and fans are filling the void with conjecture. Silence may be seen as a kind of guilt at a time when prominent people are expected to actively address controversies. There are indications that the controversy might impact careers in the long run. Even while Jackman is still involved with big projects like Deadpool and Wolverine, sources in the entertainment industry say that his reputation as a cherished icon has taken a hit. Producers and studios are keeping a careful eye on things. Viewers' interests are changing. Loss of popularity is devastating for an artist whose charisma stems from being approachable and genuine. No longer is it debatable if Jackman will make a full recovery in his career. The issue is when. Who knows if people will ever view him in the same light? The response could already be taking shape, given the sluggish ticket sales and the continuing reaction. Much obliged for your time. Embrace the power of likes, comments, and subscriptions to show your enjoyment. For more thrilling entertainment, click on the next video.